And I'm also so excited about us taking the textile tour with you in spring. Um, so I want to share with everyone who's listening that we will be doing this from the 19th of April. We'll be spending 3 days in Paris, soaking up all inspiration and hopefully buying the most beautiful, gorgeous materials, which we will be taken to Rebecca's little black book, all these secret addresses. um, and so, Rebecca, do you want to give us a little tiny sneak peek of what that's going to be all about?
Well, Ekta, I thought you might ask. So I've prepared a few more slides that give you an indication of where we'll be going. Not necessarily showing everything, but just a little taster. Um, and so we will begin now with the haberdasheries. So this
Oh
is,
my God, just look at that.
I know.
I just want to jump in right now.
Absolutely. This is the textile tour that we'll be going on Friday. And we get to go to these wonderful haberdasheries that kind of, you guys will be marveling at all the wonderful materials. And in the background, I'll be telling you all the histories and stories about them. The image here in the center, this is Ultramod. So Ultramod is the oldest haberdashery in Paris. It opened in 1827. And as part of the textile tour, they have two locations. They have a haberdashery on one side, and then they have a milliner's supply store. And that's what we're looking at here. And as part of the textile tour, we get to go into the milliner's supply store, which not everybody does. And I'll be opening up all these boxes and pulling out some of the items on the shelves to show you the treasures that are inside. We will also, so if anybody likes boxes, I know most textile people like boxes. So the image on the bottom right, that's Overa Soie. So they create the finest silk threads in the world. They've been open for over 200 years. And this is their corridor that leads back to the very, very back. And all of those little boxes are filled with the threads you can see on the left-hand side there, those silk threads on wooden bobbins. And Overa Soie is actually only open to professionals. So the first time I went in, I was sent in by Celine. I was working for Celine at the time, and they had run out. There was a silk thread emergency, and I was sent in there, and I thought, oh my gosh, what is this place? So it feels like you're stepping back in time. And it's a family-run business. They're in their sixth generation. So when I was setting up the textile tours, I very nervously knocked on the door and asked if they would be part of the textile tour, not realizing this regulation about professionals only. And Natalie, who you'll meet, was very kindly said yes. And so we have an exclusive visit to Overa Soie. And another thing that's excellent is that we get to purchase any materials we want when we're there.
I
So
am so insanely excited about that. And I have spoken with Natalie as
yeah,
well. And she's just one of those, really generous,
yeah,
warm-hearted people.
yeah.
And I can just sense that all of this history that she feels, and rightly so, she's the guardian too, sixth generation. And then just chatting with her felt so special. So I just cannot wait for all of us to go in there and get our hands on that gorgeous, gorgeous silk.
Yes, absolutely. And I always think it's interesting because I would have been nervous to work with silk, thinking that it was going to be tricky or difficult or whatever. But like once you start working with silk, it's impossible to go back to other threads. And I always thought it was going to be exorbitantly expensive, but it's actually not. So it's ruined me, Overa Soie. Now I'm I'm spoiled, but I'm very excited always to bring people in there and share that. But it won't just be haberdasheries, because I'll also be taking you through the covered passages. And in the 19th century, there were over 150 covered passages in Paris. and they introduced the middle classes and the bourgeoisie to the really new activity of shopping. So we'll be going to one of my favorites, which is Galerie Vivienne. And it was originally where men went to get their tailored suits. And now it's filled with kind of independent textile designers and fashion designers and antique bookshops and most importantly, bistros for lunch. So you can kind of spend a day in these covered passages, but they really evoke Paris of a previous time and they show just how special coming to Paris is. It's not just about textiles or fashion or food, it's the whole experience, the architecture as well. So I love bringing people through the covered passages. And then of course, loads more time. If ribbon is your thing, we'll be visiting the most beautiful ribbon places and just all the color. There's so much sumptuous color, and I think it's important to have color in our lives. It brings joy, and it, when we're visiting, this is Ultramod again, and we get to touch the ribbons. They have the best collection of vintage silk velvet ribbons. So we'll all get to touch those and know what it feels like to touch heaven almost. And yeah, it's such a, it's from like, I love it. It's very sensual. And when we see color and we touch texture and there's the ambiance and all of that. So it's a whole experience. And then that's I think, oh yes. So this moves us on to the flea market tour, which will be the following day. So when I wasn't in the library or working as an embroiderer or doing textile tours, I would spend my weekends in the flea market in Paris. So this is in Saint Ouen and it is made up of 13 individual flea markets. It's the largest flea market in France, in Europe even, excuse me. And you can see here in the center, there's a selection of fashion. This is one of the places we'll be visiting, Marcel et Jeannette. And I just find the whole experience fascinating. It can be very hard. The flea market tour took me a long time to design because I had to figure out where the best places were. And because it's so vast and it can be very intimidating and you can kind of get overwhelmed and kind of think, oh God, is it really worth it? But you can't stop. So this one took me a longer time to design and to meet people who, you know, as you can imagine, I ask a lot of questions. As you can see, I love to chat. So it was meeting people who would be welcoming to my groups and who would answer as many questions as they had, and who were passionate about what they did. Not necessarily experts, like experts are fine, but passion helps communicate that. So Marcel et Jeannette, they're very, colorful characters. And it kind of dispels the idea of, a car boot sale. Like we get to go in here and we'll be rubbing shoulders with, the head of design for Dior and Chanel, the costume designers for all of the biggest, period dramas and Netflix productions, and they all go to Marcel et Jeannette. So I'm always very excited to bring people in there. And then on the right hand side, you can see if you are a magpie and you like shiny things, I'll be bringing you to Danielle et Lily, and they have this incredible collection of handmade beads and sequins that date back to the 19th century. So very much the beginning of haute couture, when beads and sequins were made by craftspeople who trained for years. And there's even beads from Venice, glass beads from Venice, and so on. So really, if you're looking to just have that little embellishment or sparkle or twinkle in your embroidery, I'll be taking you to the right place for that. And then, as you can see, the image on the top left, there's these um, another stand that I'll be taking to you has the most beautiful vintage laces and collars and, cuffs and sleeves. And you can buy it by the half meter, or you can buy it by the meter, or by loads and loads of as much as you want. And you're allowed to, when we go in, I always, because sometimes again, when there's so much to see, it's kind of overwhelming. So as part of the tour, like I pull this out and I'll say, this is what you might be looking at, and this is the speciality in here. And I help to guide people, because otherwise there's just so much visual information you can kind of
It
forget.
can get
Yeah.
it can get so overwhelming, right? So which is what kind of I'm so excited by is seeing this through your eyes, because you've curated this, and you know that people who are coming in are textile enthusiasts, and our group in particular
Yeah.
is going to be really, really big on stitch and embroidery. And any kind of French textile, of course, is always, always, always high on our collection list.
Yeah.
But um, but in particular, just like that sensorial experience of looking at colors, looking at textures, looking at really superlative examples of embroidery. I think that we imbibe so much just through seeing and being around beautiful things. I think it just starts to shift our own work in the most lovely and subtle of ways. And then we have a week of going to the countryside, where we'll be kind of sifting through this information and our photographs and samples and incorporating that into our work. So I think this just kind of sets the tone for the whole retreat. And I've wanted us to do this right at the start, kind of. So we'll come as little sponges, Rebecca. And we will be soaking it all up and
Yeah.
gathering, filling our cup with joy and joyful things,
Yeah.
spending time with you and really kind of hearing those stories and getting those intimate little details that only you can share. So
Oh yeah.
I'm really, really looking forward to our tour.
Oh, me too, Ekta. It's every time I'm embarking on a textile tour or a flea market tour, I'm excited, and to see people's joy and to share that with them. And um, in my own practice of when I'm starting a new project, I lay out all my materials first. And sometimes I have a theme or a concept, but it's the materials that will inspire me. So I think it's an excellent idea to start off with being inspired in Paris first, and then heading off to the retreat to assimilate and digest all of that information. um, and there's a few. Oh yeah, there's a few more images from the flea market, and then we can kind of finish up, but just to give a sense that it's not just, the materials on the right hand side, that there's also, I know for notebooks, like I love working in notebooks. So there's a lot of printed materials. These are actually hand painted designs for fabric, for jacquard loom fabrics from Lyon in the 19th century. So it's I'll be pointing these out along the way. And what's fascinating, well, I feel what's fascinating is that these are, pieces of art from the 18th and 19th century, but they're between 70 and 80 euro. So I have a little collection of them at home that I frame because I feel they're very much beautiful. They're beautiful. They're really stunning. So there's more kind of beyond what you might think of initially with textiles. And then this is just for kind of seduction and envy and to covet. I'll be taking you to the world's leading expert in nécessaire de couture. So this is a sewing box like no other from the Mr. Devoudien specializes in the period from 1790 to 1810. So, because it's France, you can be that specific. And he has this wonderful collection of sewing kits and fans from that period where you have your golden scissors and your mother of pearl thread cards. And we get to go in, and he's a very charming man. And he has an encyclopedic knowledge of, thimbles and needles and all these things that we might find fascinating. And he's very patient. He's very patient with me, and I always have a lot of questions. So I'm very excited to introduce you all to him. But I think I'll just check now. I think that's kind of the end of all the. Oh no, sorry. There's more.
It just
Sorry.
keeps
Yeah.
coming. Oh my God, it's like, a treasure chest. And it's like, ooh, this, and there's more, and there's more.
Yeah, exactly. This is Madame Giovannoni, and everyone falls in love with Madame Giovannoni. She's in her 80s and she's been in the flea market for 40 years. And she is known all around France. So when chateaus and big houses are closing, and they call Madame Giovannoni, and she comes in and she takes all of their house linens. So these are everything you'd need for a trousseau. So your bed linens, your tablecloths, your serviettes, your towels, and then we also get to have a little, they're all on the table. And then we get you see the little drawers there in the background. I'll open up the drawers and show you what's inside, and you'll get to see the negligees and undergarments. She also has little boxes filled with children's clothes. So you can see that child's dress there, the little dress that's hanging on the hanger. And I always thought, oh, that's a baptismal suit or baptismal outfit. But actually, it's what French children wear on Sundays. So, completely different to how we would dress our children today. And then there's also, pashminas from Leon. They're on the wall there, and manila shawls. And she has a little bargain bin that we all love, and looking in to find kind of very unexpected treasures as well. So I think I have, oh yeah, I thought I'd share this with you. So this is me hanging on every word that Madame Giovannoni has to say. And she is just, I mean, she's a very gentle lady, but she's so passionate about the quality of linen and house linens that were produced in France in the 19th century and that still survive today. And I always think they just make phenomenal kind of background fabric for embroidery. Really, if you think beyond them being table linens or house linens, it's the finest quality linen that you can, reuse with love. So yeah, I'll be bringing you in here, Ekta. I'll be opening up drawers for you. We'll be folding out a few items so that we get to see the embroidery and the drawn thread work, and yeah, loads of it. It'll be a lovely day.
Oh, I can already, I mean, get me there already. Is
Yes.
what I'm thinking. And on the subject of antique linen, I always think of Louise Bourgeois's work. In her later years, she stopped working with metal, and I think in the last 2 decades of her life, she was exclusively working with fabric, and she used a lot of French linen because she had such strong emotional ties with it.
Yeah.
Her family, of course, was involved with the repair of tapestries, as
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. So I always get reminded of these beautiful pieces that I saw initially, back when I was a student of Bourgeois's work. And it's like, oh my God, you can get your hands on that linen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so
Yeah. Uh,
amazing.
yeah. And I
So
think
should
that's it.
we?
Think outside the box, because you'll all be very artistic and creative. So sometimes my guests, want to upholster their home and everything French, but coming in with an artist's eye, it's different. You're looking at things differently, and that's
Hmm,
really exciting for me as well. Yeah. Yeah.
wonderful. So should we come out of the
Yeah,
slides?
absolutely. Yeah. You'll
Was
have
this
to,
the last one?
that was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one, dot, 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 will be when you arrive in Paris.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Um, so just as a little reminder of the dates, the retreat runs from the 19th to the 29th of April. And we will be with Rebecca on the 19th and the 20th. That's the Friday and the Saturday for your amazing, amazing tours. Um, and I have managed to convince Rebecca to come back and
Yes.
answer some questions, which she's very, very kindly agreed to. So I'm going to let you know when that happens and have your questions ready. And Rebecca would be happy to answer them for us.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Can't wait.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. I'm so excited.